You bet. So Jose, look, um, I want to talk about BRICS, but I want to preface it or back it up to I like to come about my TikToks being as agnostic as possible when it comes to politics and religion
For
because
sure.
I was inside that inner working in DC right up till 2017, 2018. And the reason why I try to be agnostic is what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying not to project, but I'm
Hmm.
trying to educate my followers to understand that we no longer live in a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. We don't live in that prism anymore. Okay. That changed over and I can't point at a day or a time when it changed, but that all changed.
Hmm.
It somehow 10 years ago or so, we just made a gigantic shift. The reason why I bring this up is back to the BRICS conversation. So, guys like me, and you're a little younger than me, but guys my age, we grew up in a very monopolar world. Okay, it
Yes.
was the US dollar. I don't care if you called it a gold dollar or an oil dollar. I don't, you can get into debates with people about that offline. That's a
It was
conversation.
gold and
Right, right.
nothing.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
petrodollar IOUs agreements. Yeah.
Right, right. So where we are today is we are no longer in a dollar world. Okay, we're
Hmm.
we're we're fracturing. We're pulling apart, and it's amazing to hear like Prime Minister Carney from Canada at Davos the other day talk about the rupture. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Our own allies are just admitting it.
they're just dumbstruck by everything that's going on. And so now that we wake up this morning and we see that there's talk that the Fed could start buying the Japanese yen starting on Monday morning or tonight or
Heard about that.
yeah. And okay, and then you talk about India and Modi. He's out doing trade deals with Europe. He's doing trade deals with Brazil and China and Canada are talking about entering into some major exporting deals.
Hmm.
And I go back, and I don't want to blow my own horn, but I'm going to blow my own horn here. I go back to the two videos that I did in the fall of 2022 out on my YouTube page when I talked about Brexit and when I was interviewed on the radio show on the island. And I predicted back then that every country was going to have to pick a team. It's just that simple. And now we're starting to see that it's not even, and I even predicted then that it was going to be East versus West. But I now see that it's even more granular than that. The United States is building both a security moat as well as a financial moat around themselves. They want to know who their friends and their foe are. And
Hmm.
that's what this bullcrap going on in the Caribbean was about. That's what all of this is basically just framing East versus West. China's going to have their piece of the globe, and the United States is going to have their piece of the globe. And as citizens of those regions or those countries, you're going to have to hope that your country made the right choice. Because the Chinese angle looks to me like that's going to be gold backed. That's my perspective. So,
That's been the speculation for a while.
yep,
They've been acquiring gold publicly,
yep,
and they've also been doing it through, they have the mechanisms to do it where it's not publicly known.
yep, yep,
Um, State-owned companies,
yep.
buying gold, doing all kinds of. They
And
have ways
buying
to do
mining
it.
companies
They
and
have ways.
buying
Mhm.
mining companies too. Let's not
Yes,
forget that.
yes, yes. Equity mining. Also, starting January 1st of this year, they restricted silver.
Yes,
So silver doesn't come out of China if it's not approved by the government,
that's right.
meaning that China is now like a black hole for silver.
Yep.
Silver comes in and it doesn't come out.
And you don't know where it
And
went. And it might
no,
go into industrial use. It might go into personal use. You have
it
no
might
idea.
be maybe monetary use,
Yep.
maybe for technology.
Yep.
EVs need it.
Yep. Yep.
You need it for satellites. You need it for solar panels.
Yep.
So there are countless use cases for silver, both in the monetary side and in the industrial technological side. You cannot have an AI data center with no silver.
Yep.
So, and there is no substitute.
No.
There is
No.
no substitute.
No.
Silver has and I'm not trying to pump silver,
No,
just
no, no, no. You're just
stating the
talking
facts.
from the
Yes.
molecular level,
Yeah.
nothing else.
No.
There's gold and there's silver, there's platinum. They are molecularly designed to do something very
Yes.
specific.
Yes. Silver has the highest electrical conductivity of any element in the periodic table.
Yep.
Silver has the highest thermal conductivity of any metal. Silver has the highest reflectivity of any metal. So you want to make infrared sensing missile, you're gonna need silver. Like there's
Yep.
no substitute. There is
Nope.
no we're gonna play with copper. And in the future, maybe I will figure out
Yeah.
an alternative, but
Yep.
that's not right now.
Not right now.
So you have this hoarding of supplies
Yep.
of critical raw materials
Yep.
happening because and this is kind of key to the power of the hegemon. The global hegemon of the United States, and in the past it was the UK in the early 20th century. We can go into the history and how that ended. The superpower, one of the main superpowers is the ability to price all commodities in your currency.
There you go. There you
You
go.
want to buy food, you want to buy energy, you want to buy minerals,
Yep.
you're going to have to do it in our currency using our rules and regulations, paying
Yep.
our taxes and fees, and
Yep.
using our infrastructure,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that is what makes the hegemon the center of the universe.
That's
That
right.
it doesn't matter where you're on earth, if you want to buy wheat, rice,
It's
gold,
denominated in
oil,
dollars.
it's going to be in dollars. And
Yep.
if it's in dollars, we control the rails.
That's right.
We can say we don't like you. Sorry, you're not getting oil this
That's
month.
right. That's right.
And
And that's what's happened with this BRICS breaking. What
yes,
in my opinion, you know, and look, I get really pissed because people try to lump me into the conspiracy theorist uh, thing here, and I'm not. I'm just
hmm
pointing out blinding glimpses of the obvious. And then I
hmm
ask it in a question is, did they know this was going to happen when it happened? So where I'm coming up with this is, so when Russia invaded the Ukraine, the first
hmm
thing we did was is hit them with currency restrictions, trade
hmm
restrictions, because
hmm
that's the soft underbelly. That's the easiest thing to do is to just flip the switch and say,
hmm
nope, can't play in that pond, can't play with our currency. And somehow that caused this rupture that Carney is talking about. Because when that happened, all of a sudden, within just months, we were talking about the BRICS currency. As
hmm
soon as Russia was walled off from the rest of the world, all of a sudden, India is still buying oil from Russia.
hmm hmm
China is still
Yes,
buying oil from Russia.
yes.
And
So
now we're watching this in real time. And for guys like you and I that are geeks that get into
hmm
this, I'm just like, oh my God, it's happening. Oh my God, it's
so
really
there
freaking happening.
there is a pattern here um, that you see throughout history. And just kind of give you a recent example. The in the earliest 20th century, pound sterling
Yep,
was the standard.
yep,
The British Empire was they had the most powerful navy, the deepest, most liquid markets. If you wanted to issue bonds or do anything, London was the place. You
that
wanted to
was the
trade
deal.
metals,
Yeah,
London is where it's at, right?
yep,
If your pension fund, your insurance company wants to park their cash, they want to do it in London,
yep,
right?
yep,
And that was done with the assumption that your money was safe.
yep.
That
Until 1935, am I correct?
exactly, Germany.
Yep,
So the
yep,
British abused their power, like all empires do, and
yep.
froze German assets. And that sent a signal to everyone like, oh, wait, so my pension fund is not safe?
No,
My insurance policy, all that
no,
cash is not safe?
no.
You can just freeze me?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a pattern, and it goes back. We can go back to the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And this is second century. Okay, this is a long time ago.
Yep.
The Roman denarius was the standard. It
Mm-hmm.
was like 90% silver and the standard currency. So all trade was done in the Roman currency.
Yep.
Again, if you're gonna trade in Roman currency, you're gonna follow Roman regulations and rules. You're gonna pay
Yep.
Roman taxes and fees.
Yep.
You're gonna do using the Roman standard and infrastructure.
Yep.
Now, as it happens with all empires, Rome grew a lot, and uh, financing a global empire becomes unsustainable
Yes, it
over
does.
time. It's just too expensive,
Yep.
especially if you're using 90% silver. How are you going to do that? Like, you
Yep.
can't just increase the supply. And this
Right.
is kind of where this is what makes metals, precious metals, an anchor,
Mm-hmm.
because you
You got to
cannot
go mine more. You got to go
exactly,
mine it. You can't just create it.
exactly. That's called proof of work
That's right.
in the crypto side. Proof
Yep.
of work. You
Yep.
have to spend energy
That's
to
right.
get the money.
That's right.
So there is no click of a
Nope.
button, boom, trillions.
Nope.
Well, what the Romans did, very smart. They just started diluting the amount of silver,
Yep.
right? And this is where that concept of diluting the currency comes from. That's what they did. They diluted it.
Yep.
They
Yep.
lowered the percent of silver and started putting in cheaper things that were the same color, almost the
Yep.
same mass. So people kind of would just take it
Yep.
until they went all the way down to less than 1% silver. So their
Yep.
money diluted. And now, this took a long time. Back
Yep.
then, things were not over the internet. It took
Yep.
centuries. They
Yep.
diluted it all the way down to
Yep.
1%.
Yep.
So their money diluted 99%
Yep.
over the course of a century so that they could finance the welfare, the massive military presence. Because think about it.
Infrastructure.
Exactly. All the bureaucracy that comes along with
Yep.
that.
All the tax collectors for thousands of miles around on salary.
Exactly. And they needed to also, again, as the hegemon, they were the ones that secured the trade routes,
That's
just
right.
like the United States does now,
That's right.
right? We're the ones that guarantee that maritime trade can happen,
That's
that no
right.
pirate is going to jump into your ship and just take your stuff.
Yep.
It was a bit different back then, but it's the same concept.
Same concept.
You're the global police,
Yep.
and being the global police is very expensive. So
Yep.
what happened? Rome, as what empires do, diluted their currency and abused their powers through sanctions, through regulatory freezing of assets
Yep.
of their enemies. Same playbook.
Yep.
So everyone else, right? Everyone that is not Rome, or that is not the British, or that is not the Americans, has to make a tough decision. Do I continue to deposit my money there, knowing that I may become a bag holder one day?
Yep.
Or do I look for alternatives? But you can't do it publicly. You can't just come out and challenge the hegemon. You just get
No.
slaughtered,
That's right.
right?
Because they
So,
have the power.
yes. So over time, the alternatives are built.
Yep.
And the key word for people who are not familiar here is network effects.
Hmm.
Okay. How many people use the platform? That's the one thing that cannot be replicated. Okay. You can copy and paste everything else, but the users, that's the one thing that you cannot take with you. You cannot
Yep.
replicate the user base, the
Yep.
network effects.
Yep.
The larger the network effects, the stronger the platform becomes. So over time, the alternatives are built. And in the case of the British, that happened to be the dollar.
Yep.
We took over.
Yep.
As alternatives are built, as people begin testing, maybe when smaller amounts, in pilot programs, that kind of thing. And this is the stage two here.
Yep.
The empire dismisses it.
This is
The
always part of this adoption
yes,
cycle.
yes. The empire just thinks it's
Every
kind of a
time.
joke. Like, what are you gonna what?
Yeah.
But you don't have the liquidity. And for those who are not familiar, liquidity is the ability to transact without affecting the price
That's right.
too much.
Yep.
So if you're gonna deal in trillions, which is global trade, you have to have a lot of liquidity, meaning a lot of money has to be in the system so that trade can happen without the price just bouncing
Yep.
up and down.
Yep.
So the empire sees the smaller contenders. It's like, You can't handle a trillion. You don't have the liquidity. You don't have the regulations. No one's gonna trust you. No one's gonna trust some no-name
Mm-hmm.
Chinese bank.
Yep.
What insurance company is gonna buy bonds in a city that I can't even pronounce the name?
Mm-hmm.
Shandong, Shanda, but no, right? Like that's
Yep.
the mentality.
That's the
That's
mentality.
that's that's the ego.
That's the ego. Yep.
That's the ego, right? No one's gonna buy bonds on Chin Chen because they can't even say the name. No one knows where that is. No one's
Mm-hmm.
gonna buy those bonds.
Mm-hmm.
No one's gonna buy stock in your whatever commercial agricultural bank of whoever. No one cares. That's the mentality. That's the denial.
Yep.
Because actually admitting that you're wrong.
That's hard. That's for human beings. That is one of the hardest things, and we're dealing with that in our society at
Mm-hmm.
large. Not even
Mm-hmm.
talking about BRICS. I'm talking about just you see it every day in society where people go, "Oh, it'll never happen. It'll never happen." I get this a lot from people who say, "Well, I just don't want to believe that." Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
not a choice. You don't get a choice. I mean, you can play that game with yourself for a while, but the inevitability is always going to come and whack you side the head.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
is what has happened with the United States in this currency conversation. And I go back to in the beginning of this, I said I didn't want to talk politics, but I'm going to throw something out here that really intrigues me because, as you know, I used to be a message guy in DC. This is what I did. I was a policy wonk. And a year ago, coming into this new administration, I kept saying to myself, is the turmoil, is the volatility a feature or a flaw? And now that
Mm.
we're a year into it, I mean, I would like to point out to the people watching this morning, what was it? 4 weeks ago, we had the Somali crisis. 3 weeks ago, we had the Venezuelan crisis. I mean,
You can't even keep track. Now I do. There,
and
there
is
is
it
one.
on purpose, Jose? Is
Well,
it designed to distract us from the bigger thing that's working?
there is a lot of noise,
Yep,
so it's hard to tell what's noise and what is
yep,
signal. But
yep,
I'll tell you one signal that you can always trust: the price.
yes. And gold and silver are telling you everything you need to know right now.
The price. The
And the
price is
only
the
reason why
price.
Bitcoin isn't going up right now is because the money is chasing gold and silver at the moment.
Hmm.
Okay? We always know there's always rotation trades. At some point in time, the smart money goes, whoa, whoa, wait a second. We're so far outside of the realm of normal and we're getting our money out. And then you'll see a pivot back into Bitcoin. You'll see a pivot into something else. But the point is, the markets are screaming, and
Hmm.
I've spent 7 years of my life positioning myself to be right where I am today, and I'm very, very proud of it. And you had a lot to do with getting me positioned where I am
Thank
today.
you.
And my point is that the signs were always here. The
Hmm.
warning signs were always here. Even before COVID happened, we were already at an unsustainable debt level as a nation.
Hmm.
Okay. And
It's
that
it's
was,
just inevitable. Again, it's a cycle.
it's
You
a
can look at
cycle.
his. You can look at the British Empire, the Dutch Empire, the
Yep.
Spanish Empire.
Yep.
You can look at the Romans.
The
You can
Brits.
look at countless examples throughout history
Yep.
where a similar pattern presents itself. The stage one is the hegemon, establishes control,
Yep.
and
Yep.
everyone has to use their system and their currency. Stage two is the deplatforming.
Yep.
If I don't like you, I can sanction you, lock you out of your money.
That's right.
Stage three is the alternatives are being built, but the hegemon and the people that live in the empire, they don't care.
No,
They absolutely doesn't mean anything.
no.
Then stage four is the moment of critical mass, which is
Mm-hmm.
not an overnight collapse, okay? Because the empire is too big.
No, it takes time. It
You
takes
know,
time.
you
There's
can't.
going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to
Yeah,
be
there is.
you're going to
Mhm,
think it's happening, and then it gets its head whacked off, and it goes back into submission, and then there's another wave, and we're seeing that right now in the
mhm,
crypto market. We've How many of these cycles have you and I been on in the past 6 8 years? You in the past 10 years, you've seen these
mhm.
cycles. But
Hmm.
what's the overarching theme? It doesn't die. Why
Hmm.
doesn't it die? It doesn't die because of network effect.
Hmm.
Because one after another, people have opened up a Coinbase account and said, you know, maybe I ought to try a little of that Bitcoin.
It is easy too. It's easier than metals.
Yep, much easier, much
Much
easier.
easier, right? Um,
You
so the
can't put a
final,
$1 million worth of gold on a thumb drive.
no, no, it's hard to transact also in metals
Yep,
because they're not as divisible. Again,
yep,
we can. There are pros and cons.
yep,
There are pros and cons.
yep.
Okay, the metals don't need electricity, so that's a big
There's a
pro.
pro right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no internet needed.
no internet needed.
Now, the stage four is when the empire realizes that they're just an alternative.
Yep,
They're not the standard anymore. And
yep,
that's key, right? When
yep.
you go from you're the only option to you're just another option, your currency is just another rail.
A commodity.
Yes, it's just another option. It's just another ship in the casino.
Yep, yep.
And that is the kind of collapse.
And I keep going back to something, and I imagine you've probably researched this guy, but when I saw the fascinating thing about the Trump organization is going all the way back to 2016. Me coming from the political world, when I saw Roger Stone and Paul Manafort pop up on the Trump radar, I was like, oh my, we're going to have some fun. The same thing applies to the second Trump administration. When I saw Scott Besant's name pop up, I went, oh my, we're going to have
Mhm.
some fun. And why I say that is most people don't realize at all. I don't think there's probably 1% of the American population who've ever Googled Scott Besant at all, who even know anything about his past. But
I
he
don't
was
think they
part of the,
care.
what's that?
I don't think the average American cares about
No, they don't.
who
But they
runs the
don't realize.
treasury or who runs the Fed. They don't care.
No, they don't care. But Scott Bessent was in the early 90s with the Soros organization, and they
Yeah,
were part of the group that blew up the British
the
pound.
British. Yeah, and
Okay?
there's a lot of kind of thinking about this. Iran is going through hyperinflation.
Yep.
There are horrible things going down in Iran,
Yep.
and a lot of that the reason for the hyperinflation is our sanctions and our you know
Manipulation.
Mhm.
You can bet your ass the CIA. When I see these countries get stabilized, I just think to myself, gee, I wonder how long the CIA has been on the ground already. Okay, CIA shows up with their mechanisms and their tools, and they start playing behind the scenes, start handing out money to groups of people in
Mhm.
society, tell them
Mhm.
go out and protest, and all of a sudden you've got to run on a currency.
Yeah,
Funny
yeah.
how that works, isn't it?
It's inevitable. It's just human psychology.
Yep,
It's just
yep.
playing human psychology, and to think that it can happen here because we're the empire. Oh boy, oh boy,
Oh,
and that
look,
you know,
Jose. Here's another little data point that I know very few people are paying attention to. But 1 week ago, right now, the 10-year jumped. I forget how many basis points, but it was pretty significant.
mhm,
We went from like 417 or 416 to like 426 or something, literally
mhm,
overnight.
mhm.
And I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw that and I went, "Oh shit, that's not good." And to the average person, that little data point that I just gave doesn't mean anything. But to
No,
me, that told me somebody was selling dollars.
yes,
Period.
yes, yeah. That's what happened.
This is
That's
what
what
happened.
happens. Bonds go down, yields go up. It's just math, and it's not even complicated math.
It's-
It's like one plus one. You know.
exactly. But we have
Uh,
dummied ourselves down as a society to the point that, like I said, there's probably only 1% of society that even understands.
yes.
You couldn't
Yeah.
pay me to own treasuries right now. You
Yeah.
couldn't. You couldn't, because I look at it and go, you know what? Another 400 or 500 basis points higher from here wouldn't surprise me at all in the 10 year.
So what happens if you're a foreign wealth fund, an insurance
Mhm.
company, a fund manager, a retirement, pension, you're a foreign pension. What do you do?
You got a liquidity problem. And what I mean by liquidity problem, I don't mean there's not enough money. I mean there's
Oh,
the
there's infinite
door.
money.
The door isn't big enough for everybody to get through at the same time. And this is what happened
Which,
in silver over the past couple weeks is
mhm.
the door wasn't big enough for the
No,
shorts
it's
to get
not.
out.
It's not, and it will never be, which is extremely dangerous, by the way.
Extremely dangerous.
Extreme, like you're talking systemic. What happens if one of the GSIBs, right, globally
Yep,
systemically
yep,
important
yep,
banks,
yep.
blows up because they have to buy more silver than there is silver on the earth, which is probably what happened. We're never going to see those balance sheets. We have no visibility
No,
on what's
no,
going on behind
no,
closed doors.
no, no,
Okay, you
no,
don't know who's blowing up right now. You don't know
no.
who's getting margin call. You don't know who's screaming on the phone,
Mm-mm.
trying to source the metal so they can deliver so they don't blow up. You do not know that,
No, no, no.
right? You simply don't.
You
And
only see the effect of it in the price.
exactly. And that's why I said the price is the clearest signal. Even
That's
though
right.
it's manipulated and silver has been, I mean,
They've been standing on silver. Jose, I rode, and I think you probably heard my TikTok on this, but I rode silver through the 70s as a little boy. My mom worked as a teller in our little local country bank, and every day when she would cash her drawer out at the end of the day, she would exchange paper for real silver currency that was still coming in the door of the bank post gold
oh, the
standard.
the 90%,
Yeah,
40%, like the
yeah,
quarters and
yeah, the
half
real
dollars.
stuff.
You know how much does gold for now?
Oh, I do.
Oh,
Oh, trust me.
I was looking at them yesterday actually because I was thinking I'm getting some. A roll of 20 half dollars, Kennedy half dollars, is
I
$780.
know. Now I
20
want to tell
half
you.
dollars.
Let me tell you the crazy part. My mom was coming home every day with Ziploc bags full of this change. I would dump it in a milk jug. And we did this for several years. This wasn't just for days,
Wow.
this went on for years. We had milk jugs, milk plural, milk jugs full of silver. And when things blew up in 80, my dad was in the golden coin business along with
Mm,
everything else. Him and his brother were big wheeler dealers in it. And they called up a broker out of New York who met my dad and his brother at York, Nebraska at the Holiday Inn at the middle of the night, trunk full of these milk jugs and dad's old Lincoln Continental, and they traded cash for gold for the milk jugs. My uncle had his
wow.
military 38 pistol in his belt. I mean, these guys are like a couple cowboys. And I remember I was 10 years old, and I can remember dad and his brother walking in the house. It was middle of the night when they finally got back. And I can remember, I know what brown grocery bags full of 20s, 50s, and 100s look like because I saw it with my own eyes. So I saw this as a kid, the run up and then the crash. And my
Hmm.
dad started buying again in the 90s. I mean, he was buying bags of circulated coinage, which was ready to go to smelters. I can remember him buying bags of silver for $3,000. Okay, I
Wow.
mean today that bag of coinage is probably 100,
Uh, it's
75 to 100.
it's over 100,000. I was looking at the prices yesterday, and one reason why they're so valuable, not only because of the silver, but because of the fixed supply.
And you know why my dad didn't, he bought some bullion, but my dad loved to buy coinage, and he loved to buy face value coinage like quarters, nickels,
Hmm.
dimes. You know why? he
Hmm.
said
Hmm.
he said no matter what, he goes, even if it's a dumb son of a bitch at the grocery store that doesn't understand what silver's worth, at least I'll be able to buy a bag of bread because it'll have a face value. At least I'll be smart enough to go, oh, that's a quarter, even if they don't
That
know it's
is
silver.
one of the features of money is being recognizable. That's
Recognizable.
very
So
important.
he
Yes.
wanted dual
So,
purpose. You
hmm
see what I'm
hmm
saying? Yeah.
yes. So those coins are actually extremely valuable now
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
have a fixed supply.
Yep.
They're easily recognizable,
Yep.
like you said,
Yep.
and they have silver. So the actual atoms have value.
They have value. They have value.
Um, so the the bricks, the name brick, which at
Mm-hmm.
first it was BRIC, BRIC,
I see.
Brazil,
Yep.
Russia, and China. That was actually coined by the chairman of Goldman Sachs Asset Management in
Really?
2001.
Wow.
Yes, in a paper where he was talking about economies that, in his view, were going to be very important in the 21st century.
Yep.
So that's where the name came from. It came out of Goldman Sachs.
The new global South.
Uh-huh.
This is the ironic part about it is in the world of precious metals, and I don't just mean gold and silver, I mean all of these materials that are going to become so freaking valuable to our world. They seem to exist quite predominantly in third and second world countries that up
Mm-hmm.
until this point nobody really gave a shit about. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Rhodesia, where they could dig diamonds, they didn't really care. They didn't care about the rest of the country. Well, guess what? There's a lot of wealth under the rest of Africa. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of wealth. There's a lot of wealth under Central and South America. And I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
talking oil. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what is it? Chile is number one in the
Yeah.
world for copper.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've noticed, but Stanley Druckenmiller basically has come out publicly and said he owns copper mining companies. That's basically all he owns right now. He's like,
Wow.
his statement was, he said, I don't see anything else that I want to own other than copper producing companies.
You know,
Holy shit.
you know, and this is something a lot of people don't know. Silver is actually mined as a byproduct of other metals. Okay.
Really?
Yes. So silver mines, that most of the silver supply is a byproduct of mining copper, lead, zinc, and other metals that on the ground they just happen to be bonded together.
I had no
And
idea.
that makes the new supply of silver very rigid. It's very hard to scale supply.
Yep.
You can just
Yep.
open new silver mines
Right.
because
Right.
a lot of
Right.
the supply is tied to
Yep.
this other stuff.
There's got to be a justification to mine the other
Yes.
stuff
If you're
before.
if you're a copper miner and 80% of your money is copper, you're not gonna scale up because silver is going up because now you're diluting your copper. You're
That's right.
you're you're hurting your business. So that's a thing that a lot of people don't know. A lot of silver, it's tied to all these other metals. It's not
I had
just
no
pure
idea.
silver on the ground. Yes. So that makes it even harder for new supply to come online. So that's one thing. And going back to BRICS, BRICS, the first meeting was 2006. So that
Okay.
was 20 years ago. 20 years. It's been 20 years, okay?
Yep.
But again, most of this time, no one cared.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
No
It's
one
that
cared,
dismissive. It's that
you know?
dismissive. I mean, there's second. Let's be honest. China was a second or a third world country until
Mm-hmm.
25, 30 years ago. Brazil, you could argue, has teetered back and forth between second and third world status all of my life. The point that I'm getting to this, South Africa, quasi second or third world country. The point is, there was a reason why the West was dismissive of the BRICS because they didn't look like they were significant. They didn't look like they were significant until one day people woke up and said, oh my God, they've got all the money.
Yeah, yeah, that's what happens.
That's
That's exactly
exactly
what
how this
happens.
happened.
One day you realize that there is an alternative.
That's right. That's
And
right.
if you're holding American treasuries and these BRICS nations are dumping it, you have to make a decision because they're dumping on you as a
That's right.
holder.
How long are you
So
going to stand? How long are you going to hold? I mean, I look at Berkshire.
exactly.
Berkshire is the single biggest holder of U.S. Treasuries, period.
Hmm.
And I look at that, and here's where I'm at. I hear Ray Dalio in Davos last week talking about the BRICS and talking about the U.S. debt problem. And he basically said, look, I don't care whether it's the United States or any other country, all countries are confronting a debt problem. He's like, China's got the same problem, the EU's got the same problem. They're all confronting the
Hmm.
same problem. So you listen to Ray Dalio talk about that, and then you have Ken Griffith come out and start talking about bond vigilantes,
Hmm.
and you're going, And I look at Berkshire Hathaway's treasury holdings and I'm like, holy crap, you talk about having a satchel full of dynamite strapped to your ass. I couldn't sleep at
I mean,
night.
he what can he do though? He's such a
No,
big holder.
he's the house. Back in the
Exactly.
when I was in the pit trading, there would be guys that would put on gigantic positions, and then they'd get them rammed down their throats because of the liquidity, the door. There wasn't, there wasn't enough buyers for whatever they had on them, and we used to call that, we'd say he became the house, and you become the house, and that you are the liquidity. You're the buyer. You have to continue to buy because if you don't continue to buy, the value of your portfolio potentially could start going down. So you just keep
Hmm.
borrowing more and borrowing more and leveraging and leveraging and leveraging. And ironically, whether you're talking about Berkshire's portfolio or the United States Treasury in general, that's basically where we are. We're just borrow, borrow,
Hmm.
borrow, print, 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 borrow, 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 print, print, print. There
Hmm.
is no other plan. And I had some
No,
people get really in my face after 2024 election. Like a year ago right now, I had some good friends of mine who got in my face about it. And they're like, you don't understand. He's got a plan to address the budget and he's got a plan to address the debt. And I'm just sitting here going, nobody's got a plan.
it's impossible.
No,
It's
no, it's
impossible.
impossible.
It's just there's math. Just it's not. It's impossible.
He might have a
It
plan
and
for
it,
6 months or a year, but he doesn't have a long term
you
plan. Nobody does.
cannot address. No, no.
No.
The only option. Well, okay. Technically, you could go the route of cutting spending, austerity, but who's gonna do that?
And then you'd have a tax problem at the state and the county level because of the austerity. So
Mm-hmm.
then you'd have counties and states going bankrupt because the federal government decided to go on an austerity program. So
Yeah.
that's not going to work.
Exactly. So you have no choice. You cannot just, oh yeah, we're gonna just tax 80%, and then that's how we're gonna pay it down. That's impossible. That makes no sense.
No.
And I think one of the, I believe that the fundamental reason why people don't kind of see that is because they're still valuing the dollars. They it's still hard to kind of see that the money itself is it's an IOU.
Well, let's
that that
be
that
honest.
that, that a bill, a $20 bill, it's an IOU.
It's an IOU. It has no value except for the full faith of the United States government. And
Yes.
if you show up to the window one day and they don't take that $20 bill from you, the full faith of the government is immediately eroded. Done. Because that's all it
Yes.
is. There's that one
Yes.
moment in time where that had better happen, and if it doesn't happen, it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what freaks me out. In my mind, in my gut, I think they're getting ready to monetize this debt. I think they're giving people one last chance to get on the fiat crazy train, meaning buy a house, buy some real estate, buy something that you want. I think they're going to try to manipulate the short term federal funds rate by getting control of the Fed. I think they're going to
Mm-hmm.
play some games with short term, long term treasury auctions. I think they're going to give people one last chance to get on the crazy train. And then I think it's just going to be print like, you talked about it once years ago. What was it? You said deflation before hyperinflation.
Deflation before hyperinflation.
And
Yes.
I don't think we're going to
Yes.
actually get the deflation.
I don't know about, yeah.
I think we're kind of living in it now and we don't really realize it, that it's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
we're at a let's be honest, if it wasn't for spending on data centers right now, the United States wouldn't have an economy. So there's kind of your deflationary warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in all reality, we talked about this in our previous video. If they, God forbid, that they stop spending on AI,
Yeah,
because if
it's
they
over.
do, this whole thing just goes woof in a pile of
Yes.
shit.
Yes. We're kind of putting all of our chips on technology to save us.
Everything. And for the people that are watching this that don't understand what we mean by this, it's very simple. There are 10 or 12 stocks that are propping up the stock market right now, and every single one of them has something to do with AI.
Yes.
Okay, so
The,
just kiss your 401k real gently tonight before you go to bed and tell it, be a good boy while I'm sleeping. Because if
yes.
something goes bad,
The
it's
Magnificent Seven, as the so-called Magnificent Seven, I
Yep.
think it's 30%. You can fact check me.
Yep.
Please go ahead and look it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Whatever. Yeah.
I believe it's like about 30% of the S&P.
Yeah.
The S&P is supposed to be 500 companies. Okay.
That's why
So
it's called the S&P 500.
when you buy a share of the S&P or a fund that
Mm-hmm.
tracks the
Mm-hmm.
S&P in your
Yep. The
retirement
SPY.
account,
Yep. The SPY or the
yeah, or
SPX.
a lot of people buy this day targeted funds and all
Mm-hmm.
this other, there
Mm-hmm.
are all these
Mm-hmm.
other products that people get into. I'm not a fan of
Right.
those things, but
Right.
that's
They're
the
there.
reality.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they're there. People buy them.
Yep.
People buy them mostly because they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just an automatic every paycheck
Yep.
your DCA.
Yep.
Fine,
But
it's worked before,
they're not buying
but they're
500
not
companies.
buying. No,
They're buying
no.
7 companies, 10 companies.
Yes.
Those managers
Hmm.
of those funds are absolutely tick for tick. Whatever the
And
S&P does, they're doing.
here's a mechanism, okay, that can trigger severe losses, severe losses for those pensioners or people
Mm-hmm.
holding on to those assets. And this connects to the bonds because a lot of people have a kind of some sort of 60-40 so-called,
Portfolio. Yep. Yep.
yeah, they're automatically rebalanced to
Yep.
keep that ratio.
Yep.
Okay, let's say a big whale, China, Japan,
Mm-hmm.
Germany, dumps treasuries. Even if it's a tiny 1%
Mm-hmm.
overholdings, okay? Just a little test.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else watching, all the other whales are like, wait,
Yep.
Germany's dumping. We need to we need to do a meeting. We need to make a decision because we
And
can't
this
we can't.
and this is the bond vigilantes that Ken Griffith was talking about in Davos. And people who are watching this video need to pay attention. When you hear somebody like Ken Griffith talk about the bond vigilantes, your butt cheeks better pucker real freaking quick because they don't play around, do they, Jose?
No, 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 because they have no choice.
When they pull
They're
that plunger, it just whoosh. And if you don't believe
so.
us, go watch how many days it took to unravel the British pound. It took three
Hmm.
days. 3 days.
Hmm. Hmm.
The pound sterling went from being a sovereign currency to being junk in 3 days.
Yeah, it happened very fast.
Very
So
fast.
if they start dumping, if a well starts dumping, and the other words are like, okay, no, we need to make a decision. We're not going to backhold. We're not going to be the exit liquidity for China.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Once you get that cascading effect where
Mm-hmm.
everyone starts realizing everyone else is dumping,
Yep.
if you're that person buying the target data fund with
Yep.
the
Yep.
60-40 whatever,
Yep.
if the bonds drop in price,
Yep.
well, the ratio is no longer 60-40.
Yep.
So that has to be rebalanced. And this is
Rebalance.
automatically.
And it
How do you do that?
yep.
You sell the winners to buy the loser. You
Yep.
sell the stocks to buy the bonds to bring
Yep.
it back into
Yep.
60-40. So
Yep.
now the stocks are suffering
Yep.
because of this automated AI
Yep.
bots rebalancing portfolios
There you
and
go.
dumping stocks and buying bonds. And it's just, and once you get that snowball,
It's a feeding frenzy.
it's just
So so
catastrophe.
so I'd like
Yes.
I'd like to tell the viewers who are watching this an interesting story. You have actually, if you watch the movie Margin Call with Kevin Spacey
Yeah.
and Jeremy Irons,
Hmm.
you have
Hmm.
actually seen a movie scene that is indicative of exactly what you and I are talking about. And I'm talking about the meeting in the middle of the night where Jeremy Irons, Demi Moore was there, Kevin Spacey, all those characters sitting around the table. And Jeremy Irons says, "Look, don't candy coat it. Give me the truth. I want to know exactly." And he looks at Kevin Spacey and he says, "How long does it take us to get out of our position?" And Kevin Spacey says, "Are you telling me we're going to burn all of our friends on Wall Street to the ground?" And Jeremy Irons says, "Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do." Okay. And
Hmm.
so the point is, if you don't believe Jose and I, when we tell you how the bond vigilantes think, there is a scene in a movie that you can go watch, and that is not made up fictitious bullshit. I realize it was in the context of the movie, but that's exactly how these conversations happen. The head of a
Hmm.
trading desk at some major firm looks at the CEO of the firm and says, "We got to get out." And when that
Yeah.
happens, it is an absolute shit show. And then you have the secondary. The secondary are these funds that are constantly trying to reposition,
Mm-hmm.
and they just hyperventilate. They just go
Mm-hmm.
into complete shit show meltdown because at some
Mm-hmm.
point in time, the delta, the theta, the vega don't mean anything anymore. They're just freaking
No.
crazy numbers that are just popping up for no particular reason. And all of a sudden, you just have a pandemonium. And the
Yes.
viewers have lived through this also one time before in our lives, and that was in 2009. The spring
Mm-hmm.
of 2009, when the stock market was in complete meltdown, this is exactly what was happening. There was no way
Mm-hmm.
to rebalance. All the trading desks at
No.
that point were just flying blind. They
Yeah.
couldn't possibly rebalance because there was no
No.
bid and ask. The spreads were completely out of whack. There was no way to balance. And I
No.
worry, I worry that if we monetize this debt out of pure selfishness,
That can. I'm telling you. I'm telling you that because it's a double-edged sword
yeah,
that always ends in
it
hyperinflation.
always ends
But
in
it's a,
hyperinflation.
you know, so.
And it always ends in a generation that gets completely screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The last time the United States went through something like this, we screwed over the World War II generation. And the World War II generation not only had to survive the Great Depression and all of that shit, they had to win a world war. I don't know whether that's the roadmap that we're on today, but I will say one thing. My daughter, who's 19, 20 years old right now, if we monetize this debt, Jose, her entire life will be spent living in just abject poverty. She may have a
Yeah.
job, but it will be poverty because you won't be able to make enough money to do anything except survive. Because it will be all about a house is $1 million. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Trump has articulated this. He said, I don't want to see the value of houses go down. That's why he wanted a 50-year mortgage. He's
Mm-hmm.
telling young people, you better buy a freaking house when these interest rates dip. And I hope to God that the short-term federal funds rate dips. I hope there is a window of opportunity for people to buy.
I think there will be.
I think there will be, but boy, you had better be buying. You had better
Mm-hmm.
if now, and it's a choice. Now let's talk about the binary choice. Do you want to spend the rest of your life attached to the fiat currency? Because the conscious choice that you make right now by buying a house in the United States is a conscious choice to be attached to the fiat currency for the rest of your life.
It, it is. It is. So it's a very personal
It's a personal
decision to
choice.
make. But
Yep.
in my experience, you're better off owning the asset no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Long term, like yeah, okay, fine. You're attaching yourself.
Mhm.
You could sell later on. You could maybe rent. I don't know, but
Yep.
the asset it's better than the cash, no matter what.
Yep. And
That's how
see,
I
and for
see it.
me, for me, I've
It's not
chosen
a perfect solution,
no.
but it's better than
And
no,
back to
no
not being
exposure.
right, and back to not being the perfect solution. I've chosen Bitcoin as my surrogate. Okay, I mean,
Hmm.
people are like, "How's that a surrogate for a house?" Well, it's going to go up in value if they devalue the currency. I'm sorry, any of those high risk assets are going to go up.
Anything that has a fixed supply, it doesn't
Yep,
matter what it is, okay?
yep,
It could be collectible baseball cards. I
yep.
don't care.
It doesn't matter.
If it has a fixed supply, it's easily recognizable
And fungible.
and it's infungible, yeah. And there is a market. There has to be a
And there's a
market. There have
market.
to be,
Yep, yeah, yeah,
people have to be
yep,
willing to trade.
yep.
That's all you need.
That's it.
You don't,
Yep.
it's
And
not
this
so.
and this is very possible what is coming. I'm starting to think that there is a plan to hyperinflate our currency. And this is the shitty part about the pattern recognition because people go, well, how do you know that? Well, I don't. I just something in my gut tells me this is the direction that they're going in.
It's it's better in a way if it's a managed decline than an out of control bolt out of the blue
Right.
implosion, right?
Right.
But going back to the whole thing with Japan, that sends a signal that
Oh.
the United States is it's never going to stop paying its debts with diluted currency.
No.
That's what that tells you. Like,
Greenspan said that 7 years ago. He said the United States can always pay their debt because they can always print money. And I never will forget it. I can't think of his name, Saxby or whatever, was sitting next to him. This was on one of those Sunday morning shows, and I remember the look on the other guy's face was just like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that." But that's the truth. The United
it's
States
the
will
truth.
always. It's the
We
truth.
can we can always guarantee you will get paid. Now, what the buying power of that currency is going to be, well, I don't know. That's up to the market.
That's the markets. The
You know,
markets
you
will
know
sort that
that
out.
that's up to the market. I remember
Mhm.
when a dollar bought you a gallon of gas, and it doesn't anymore,
No, no,
right?
no.
So it's up to the market to decide.
Yeah.
Um, Real estate, anytime in these hyperinflationary situations, it's also a double-edged sword because of, and you mentioned this before, taxes and insurance.
You got to pay the bills. There's a carrying cost
Now,
for real estate. There's not a
there's
carrying
a
cost to Bitcoin.
exactly. There is
And
not
I
a
know
carrying
people.
cost to gold.
Yeah.
There is not a carrying cost to silver. There is not a
Platinum,
carrying cost to platinum. There is not a carrying cost to collectibles.
diamonds,
There is not a
stamps,
carrying cost to
baseball
the yeah,
cards.
anything.
No.
Yes, all these things that you physically hold in your
Yep.
own safe,
Yep.
that you can look at them any day. It's not a claim, and that's kind of the key, I guess, framework. It's look for things that are not a claim, that are
That's right.
not an IOU,
Not an
that are not a
IOU.
contract,
A surrogate
right?
for the physical. A surrogate for the physical.
Exactly, because
Yes.
all those stocks on all those
Mhm.
retirement funds, this is so much of IOUs.
That's all it is. And
Okay,
try to get your money out.
if that is
Try to get your
exactly
money out.
exactly that institution can very easily shut off the door and say, you know what, we have a limit, $500 a
It
day.
it it was in the subscription paperwork that you signed when you first enrolled in that fund. You signed some
Hmm.
paperwork, and embedded in there it says we don't have to give you your money back.
No, no, and this is something for people to look up if they've never heard of force majeure.
There you go.
Force majeure. Look that
Out
up
of our
because that
control.
that it's
Out of our control.
yes, yes. The idea is if something happens
Yep,
that's totally out of their control, they can just not give you your money. They can
yep,
declare force majeure,
that's right.
whatever that is. It
Yep,
could be a natural disaster, it could be a war,
yep,
it doesn't matter. They have the ability to, hey, we know we promised you you were gonna get paid X amount per month for the
yep,
rest of your life. Force majeure. Here's a
yep,
check for $20. That's all we're
yep,
gonna give you.
yep. We may
It
true up with you. We may or may not true up with you later. But for right now, this is all you're getting. Tough luck.
now you can always say, well, what about the why doesn't the government just print the money? They will.
They will.
This is
They
gonna make
will.
it worse. That's the thing.
They
That's
will.
the thing. It just makes it worse. It's just gasoline on the
That's right.
fire.
That's right. And we're there.
So,
We are there. We are
oh
there.
yeah,
And
we're there. We're there.
we're not even talking about the effects that artificial intelligence is going to have on the psyche of society. I mean, I can sense it, and there's a new term that have started floating around, and it's so I went through some shit 6, 7, 8 years ago where I had a lot of cognitive dissonance, and it really caused me to lock myself away because I could not put words to what my intuition was trying to tell me, and it really was nasty. It was scary. And there's a phrase that recently came up that really put my mind at ease, and it ties back to what I'm talking about, the panic around AI. There's a phrase that started to float around Davos this last week. It's called the new dark ages. I don't know if you've ever
Mm,
Googled that, Jose, but there's now a lot of
mm-mm,
talk that we as a greater society are moving into the new dark ages. And
mm,
and I see it. It is as a society, we're first of all we're looking for someone to blame for our problems. That is human nature. We always
mhm,
look for something to project our pain off on. That's a dangerous
Mm-hmm.
thing when you have an entire society that is going through the same pain, which is what's going to happen with AI. Then you have the problem of mysticism and conspiracy theories, and all of that seems to percolate at a time when people's psyches are the most fragile. So you go back to the Great Depression era. Kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby. My God, Jose, the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby was front page news of every newspaper in America for months. Why? Is because society was in such a shitty mindset that to focus on anything other than their own problems was an escapism.
Mm.
Okay, and so I'm really,
Very
really afraid
beautiful.
that we're moving into a direction here where society is going to become impossible to lead.
Mm.
Just psychologically, people are just, let's be honest, Jose. If we had a pandemic today, 1 billion people would die because everybody's
Mm-hmm.
skeptical. I mean, nobody knows what to believe. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
do you get the vaccine? Do you not? Do you do it? The point is, we're in a really, really, really unhealthy place on so many levels:
Mm-hmm.
economy, financially, society,
Mm-hmm.
psychologically. I mean, it's just, oh my God,
It's a very fragile point because the
very,
empire is on its way out, and this is the scary kind of thought of our adversaries looking at it like,
there you
we can
go.
just they just
We can
need to
just
be
push
put,
them
they
out of
just
the
need a
way.
little nudge, just a
Yep,
little nudge.
yep,
And
and we
that
can
could
break
come
that.
again.
Yep.
Yes, and that could come again. Just start dumping trash. Just like literally was it today at 6 p.m. when futures open. Gap
Who knows?
now, rugged.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then they get, and that's it. And it just starts going.
yep.
And there's nothing we can, oh, okay, we can pause the markets. Yeah, you can
But it's
hold
still going to
trading.
bubble up. It's still going to bubble up.
It's
Pausing it
just,
doesn't stop it.
exactly. No, you can halt it, but when you reopen, it's just gonna be worse.
That's right. Because there'll be more
So,
orders. There'll be more orders waiting when you reopen the market later.
hmm
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so this
And the panic
in the panic.
of it being closed, of you not being able to move.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
a big holder, if you're a big whale and you cannot make a trade, like, oh, like
There's
you're a billionaire, but you're trapped.
yep. Yep.
Hmm
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know.
I don't
So
know how Berkshire Hathaway, man. I don't know. I mean, very successful.
yep.
They they've done incredible things. A lot of respect for Berkshire Hathaway as a company,
Mm-hmm.
but the position that they're on, where they're the casino now.
They this is why you
Wow.
see the oligarchs. This is why you see the oligarchs.
Hmm
The oligarchs have all dropped in line just like a bunch of soldiers, is
Of
because they
course.
understand exactly what's at
Hmm
stake. They do.
hmm
They
hmm
absolutely understand.
Well,
And
they're all
this is
falling in
why
line. They're all falling in line.
they're all falling in line. And this is why I tell people, people are like, how do you know there's going to be inflation? How do you know there's going to be hyperinflation? I said, because the oligarchs are going to demand money printing. I'm sorry.
Hmm
The oligarchs are going to
hmm
demand money printing. When it comes down to it, Jeff Bezos, Musk, Larry Ellison, Warren Buffett, you can name the top 40 or 50 billionaires in America. They will be calling up the White House saying, for God's sakes, turn on the fucking money printer. Because I'm going broke.
It's deflation is worse. From their point of view, deflation is worse.
Way worse. Way
It's
worse. Because
worse. It's way
because then all of
worse.
their leveraged positions start to implode on them.
It all
People
implodes.
people don't realize these billionaires, they're all working on leverage. They're all buying their own stock on margin. They're all playing the same games. They're all trying to make more money. They're all
Hmm
trying to become more wealthy using
hmm
leverage. And so
hmm
one little
And remember,
downtick.
because of leverage, all it takes is one big player to go under,
Yep,
and the whole system collapses because
yep,
it's lever, because it's people owe
yep,
people money.
yep,
If I collapse, Oh, I'm not paying you. I'm not paying you. I'm not paying you. Oh,
Yep,
now you can pay them, and now
that's
they
right.
can pay them, and
It
then it
becomes
just
contagion.
snowballs.
It becomes contagion.
It's a
And we saw
contagion.
that in the beginning of COVID, 5, 6 years ago, right
Hmm.
now, we started to see this
Hmm.
really starting to happen. And this is
Hmm.
why I tell people, I'm like, we live in a Ponzi scheme. Okay. And people are like, oh, it's not a
Yes,
Ponzi. I'm like, it's a Ponzi scheme. Trust me.
it is.
You
It
get
is.
4 or 5 quarters of negative GDP growth, and I'll show you a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. And
Big
remember,
time.
when the empire loses the ability to price commodities, okay, when commodities can be traded outside of the system,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. There is no going back.
That's it.
And it's not a declaration of war that triggers it. It's not a big announcement.
No.
It's just an
Contagion.
alternative.
It's just contagion. It's just contagion.
Hmm.
And so this is why I consciously made a choice to live my life the way I live it now, 6, 7 years ago, and I wouldn't go back ever. Is it hard? Yes, it is definitely hard living out of 2 suitcases and a laptop. There are times when you do get frustrated. There are times you wake up in a hotel in some country and you're just like, I just want to go home. Well, I don't have any homes, so I just deal with it. But the point
Hmm.
is, I consider the 2 suitcases and a laptop, or the diaspora, is the only real safety that I know. Is you live
Hmm.
someplace for a while until it becomes economically or politically destabilized, and then you move on down the road. And because when you talk about contagion, I think this is just going to flow all around the globe. I think each country is going to go through their own little bloodlettings. I don't know what's
Hmm.
going to happen in the Caribbean. I mean, the United States is flexing their muscles here, and yeah, let's be honest. All they got to do is put out one press release that says, "Don't travel to such and such island because we think that there's terrorists there," and that island's bankrupt overnight
That's it.
because their entire economy depends on
Hmm.
travel. Bam, or
Hmm.
more importantly, shut down the cruise ships. You want to really, really cause pain in the Caribbean, shut down the cruise ships. And I'm not talking from the tourism aspect, I'm talking from the supplies that come in the belly of those cruise ships. That's where our milk
Hmm.
comes from. That's where our perishables come from. You want Yoplait yogurt on your table in the Caribbean, it's coming out of the belly of a cruise ship. And if those cruise ships don't show up, you've got a problem. So I look at just my
Yeah.
little world and I'm like, well, I'm not real sure how this is going to play out. And then you look at Central and South America and there's some beautiful places there and don't know how it's going to play out. And so then now,
Hmm.
Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, they look beautiful.
Asia.
But you want to live in that part of the world, you're going to be tied to the BRICS currency. That's just how it's going to be.
Hmm.
Okay. That's Asia.
Yeah, you gotta pick your poison, right?
That's right. That's right. And then
No,
beyond that,
if they do, I if they do come out with some sort of go back, like actually go back currency,
mm-hmm,
maybe they can use, of course you can use blockchain for
yep, validating.
auditing their reserves and all those things.
Yep.
Like you can make it work, the technology is
Yep.
there. I, I don't think the average American will care
Yeah.
until their dollar no longer buys anything.
Right. But this
Because
wave of
I don't
this
think they would.
they won't. And there's also something even more sinister going on here, Jose. So back to Davos. So Secretary Lutnick was this keynote speaker at a dinner at Larry Fink's house. And Lutnick got up in front of all of these world leaders at Larry Fink's villa in Switzerland and said, globalism didn't work. This is the end of globalism. And a lot of world leaders actually got up and walked out of that dinner. You can Google this. This is a true story.
Wow.
And
Wow.
when you have the secretary of a United States entity stand up in front of the world leaders and say this is the end of globalism, look, whether he's right or not is not the point. What he's saying is he's articulating a vision that is in the White House. There is a vision within the top of the world or of the United States leadership that says we're no longer part of the world. Why do they not want us to be a part of the world? I don't know. But here's the scary part. If you control the internet, if you control the information, and if you control the currency and you control the population, a large look, most people would not believe how beautiful it is in some of the places that I travel to and how incredibly cheap it is to live in some of the places that I travel to. But to exacerbate it and make it even worse, if you're an American and you don't have any idea what's going on in the world outside the borders of the United States because you're being fed information that is government generated and you're not seeing any of the beauty that goes on in the world outside, like you said, Americans might not even give a shit. Their house might be worth $17 million and their car might be worth $1.7 million. They might think that seems perfectly normal. you know, and the reality of it is
It's
they,
true.
the reality of it is they live in a
It's
shitty
true.
life. But if they don't know they live in a shitty life, they don't know any better. Okay, this is